do
hate
this. I gotta
I
do this
hate St.
because
John's and I hate Alabama.
I gotta do this. Y'all not happy about 4-1 seeds making it to the Final Four?
Actually, I think it's kind of cool personally.
No, 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 no.
I know you're not addressing this to me, but yeah, go ahead.
And so we not happy that 4-1 seeds, the four best teams throughout the entire basketball landscape, are playing each other for the Final Four and a right to be called champion. We're not happy about that.
I mean, that's why they create the brackets, so this could actually be the result. But you ain't hear that from us.
2 years ago, UConn, Miami, FAU, San Diego State.
0 1 seeds.
Y'all weren't happy about that either.
No, because it didn't have a blue blood and didn't have any 1 seeds. Ain't that some
FAU got taken to the woodshed by UConn.
as they was going to like they did every team in the tournament that year.
San Diego State survived Miami,
Man, that was a great game.
and then
That's probably
UConn,
one of the best national semifinal games I've ever seen.
took San Diego State to the woodshed.
That yeah, that was it was
And then everybody's up in arms like, this is, see, we can't watch this. We get all the way down to national championship. This is not championship game y'all want to give us. Well, hey, they all made it. I mean, they won their games.
UConn versus UConn versus who the is San Diego State, and it's a shame that when you hear people complain about this, I'm with you. It's like, what do you want? Do you want to have the big boys not be represented, or do you want the big boys to be represented?
There's no similar.
Do you want some big boys to be represented? Do you want all of them to be represented, or do
When
you
you
want
get
none of them?
Cinderellas, you get to see them get their ass kicked, and then you complain because they got their ass kicked. Is there a reason why they're called a Cinderella? They're not supposed to be there.
Yeah, because every Cinderella has midnight hit them in the game they lose. Every last one of them. I can't think of a Cinderella that
The
fought
only
hard
time
and barely lost.
that would be Butler. You know why? Butler had the executive vice president of the Boston Celtics as their head coach.
Yeah, Brad Stevens. Look,
When they got to back-to-back national championship games, but they didn't bring in one of them back to Butler. One of them was lost against to Duke, by the way.
yeah, I was saying one was to do.
You had your VCUs of the world until they ran to Florida. You had your Jordan Masons of the world until they ran to Florida. You had your Florida Gulf Coast until they ran to Florida.
You had
You had
Gonzaga, who basically was nothing, and then turned themselves into a power, and you hated the fact that they became a power all throughout the while.
you had your Loyola of Chicago until I forgot who they ran into.
Oh, I hated when they lost because I forgot the woman's name.
Sister Jean.
Yes, I love Sister Jean. I loved her.
But when we had 2 years ago, y'all was mad. UConn,
Ain't watching this. I actually saw,
FAU, San Diego State, and Miami.
I actually saw someone, and I won't say I'm boys with them, but we're respectful enough to where we can voice something we vehemently disagree, but we're not disagreeable with each other. He actually said, "I ain't gonna watch this." I was like, "So you basically want to watch a blue blood fest? Like you want to see North Carolina, Duke, Kansas, UCLA, um, and you can name other programs that represent every single year." He said, "No, I'm not saying that." Oh, yes, you are, because you're saying you ain't gonna tune in because it's UConn and the other three schools that you could give two rats behinds about. That's exactly what you're saying.
Then the season after that, it was the UConn Invitational. Everybody just knew it was gonna be UConn. Who gonna be the other three participants? We're looking at one of them was the another one. The one to see would be Purdue, and Purdue couldn't even sniff a can on the UConn in the national championship game.
That's a shame. they had the person that could have helped, but unfortunately he just
I don't remember the other two. I need to
didn't.
do that. Let me see who was the other two in the Final Four last year. Because I don't remember. I know it was
Like you said, it really didn't matter.
yeah, because it was the UConn Invitational.
Mm-hmm. That was because we saw how UConn beat everybody by double digits the year before, and then when we heard UConn was going to be in the tournament, period. Forget what seed they were going to be. They're going to be in the tournament. You're like, all right, they're going to win.
Oh, Alabama and NC State. And the crazy thing, NC State
They
only
was
reason
11th seed, wasn't
yeah, the only reason why they made a tournament because they ran through the ACC tournament,
they? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
surprising to everybody.
Mm-hmm.
You had a Cinderella last year, surprisingly from a powerful conference.
Mm-hmm.
Because there was no way in the hell they should have made it, but they did.
Yeah. But I argued with him. I'm like, dude. So you want to see programs you're familiar with versus teams that actually worked hard throughout the whole year to get to this point. Make that make sense.
And here's the thing: Purdue beat NC State by 13, and UConn beat Alabama by 14.
Mm-hmm.
And then UConn decided to beat Purdue by 15, all by double digits.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a disappointment because everybody just knew it was UConn and who else there.
Mm-hmm.
Now we get to 2025. The
Mm-hmm.
four best teams showed you why they were the four number one seeds, and we don't like it because we didn't have no Cinderella story.
Well,
As we said earlier, you're talking out the both sides of your mouth.
Well, you know something? Florida to me is a Cinderella story because who thought they were one of the four best teams in the country? And I'm talking about beginning of the year. I'm not talking about at any point in the year. I'm talking about the beginning of the year.
Florida started as the 21st ranked team going into the season.
Yeah. So to me, I think that's a minor Cinderella because no
And
one
then,
thought they was going to make it this far.
And then they smacked Tennessee in the mouth when they was number one when they came to Gainesville. And they smacked them really hard. They beat them by 30.
Mm-hmm.
When the last time you saw a number one team get beat by 30?
It's been a minute.
And then they decided to go down to the jungle, Auburn, Alabama, and smack Auburn in their own building when there was a number one team in the country. Legit 2 wins by against number one seat, the number one team in the country.
Number one ranked teams, yeah.
Went to Alabama,
beat them,
smacked my Alabama in the mouth, and then people was like, you know what? This Florida team is something else. And this team is legit.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden, they're a 1 seed. They win the SEC tournament. They beat Alabama again. They beat Tennessee again.
And they beat Auburn again.
They ain't face Auburn.
Oh,
Auburn
they
got,
that's right. That's
Auburn
right.
got knocked out by Tennessee.
That's right. Auburn got knocked out by Tennessee. But Auburn. I think Auburn was ranked high before the season began, and Duke was. So
Houston was too.
And I'm saying Houston was ranked as high as I think 4. They ended up actually being 3. But so we pretty much figured that if all things were to be equal and everybody to be healthy, that Auburn, Duke, and Houston would be here. But no one on their bingo card, unless you are a Gator fan, thought Florida would be here. So we did get a Cinderella story. It just wasn't like a let me think. It wasn't like a Murray State. It wasn't like a George Mason. It wasn't like a Florida Atlantic or Florida International. It wasn't a McNeese State. It wasn't one of those programs that people want to disrespect and pray they get whooped by 30.
And the crazy thing is, the entire College Game Day crew, Reese Davis, Jay Williams, Jay Billis, and Sel Greenberg all picked Florida.
Well, you mentioned nothing the reasons as to why. So they went to Tuscaloosa and beat Alabama. They went to Auburn and beat Auburn. They hosted Tennessee and spanked them by 30. And oh, by the way, Auburn and Tennessee were ranked number one when Florida beat them, and then they beat Tennessee again, and then they beat Alabama again in the tournament. So I get why they all chose Florida.
And the thing was going into conference tournament, these were the four that were going to be jet the number one seeds.
Yeah.
The way everything played out, number one overall seed is Auburn. Your second
Hmm.
overall team is Duke.
Duke
Third is Houston, and
is
fourth is
fourth
Florida.
is Florida. Hmm.
And they all told you throughout this tournament why they was chosen to be one seeds,
Hmm.
and you don't like it.
I do actually because they picked the right ones personally.
So we don't like it for Cinderellas to make a run because they're gonna get their ass whipped at some point in time.
Yeah, because it's boring and people won't want to watch. And I heard people say this. Like, why? The sport's still the same. So it's a program that you don't know or could care less about, but you won't watch it. But you want to care about a blue blood because what? You're gonna root for them to be beaten? Make that make sense.
And now you have the four best teams, legit four best teams left.
Yeah.
And we don't like it because we have no son. Do you realize you have the four best teams in the country?
They don't like it because there's not a number two, a number three, or number four. And they ran roughshod over the twos and the threes and the fours. All
You got
all all four of them did.
Saturday's gonna be electrifying, and then the next championship game is gonna be electrifying, and any combination you want to put it as.
Yeah, because you got four great teams. Really, you I don't care who you're rooting for to win the national championship. You got four solid teams, and you said it early in the program, and I do agree with you. I agree with you then. I agree with you now. Number five is distant from the four that we have here. These were the four best teams in the college basketball landscape this year, bar none, no exceptions.
So pick a side because you want to see good basketball. You finna get great basketball. Florida and Auburn finna meet for the second time. Auburn gonna come out with some fire because they gonna be hearing all about what happened in Auburn on that fateful day.
Yeah, so they'll have motivation, and Florida, of course, will have motivation because they feel as though, oh, we're within sight. We haven't raised a national championship in 19 years. We get a chance to do it again. So they'll be reminded of that.
And the thing is, everybody gonna be looking at Janai Broom, how he's gonna fare against the inside of Florida with that messed up
18.
elbow he got.
That is going to be a good question because that elbow is going to get tested. It's going to get tested as it should.
And you notice he couldn't move that arm in the second half.
Yeah, it's going to get tested, and it should get tested. If he's going to play, it's going to get tested.
And Florida's physical.
That's what I'm saying. It's going to get tested, and it
Alex
should get
Condon,
tested. Because if you have any physical assault and you can sniff blood on somebody, you should attack physically. Yes.
so
Period.
that's something to look at.
Yeah.
How's Janai Broom gonna fare with that elbow against this size of Florida? Alex
And
Condon,
and you need to have that,
Singulu,
and you need
Thomas
to
Houck,
and you need
Micah
to and you need to
Hamlock.
have that size to counteract what Florida can bring.
And remember,
You
Florida can rotate four guys in and out
yeah.
in
You
the
need to have
inside.
you need to have that size to counteract what Florida can bring because you got to if you can't win the boards, you got to compete against them to have your fair share of boards. Because if not, Florida can clown you on the boards. And they don't have to shoot well from three or from the field. They could just kick your behind in the offensive rebound category and just
Dude,
clean your clock.
we just showed it against Maryland and Texas Tech. They combined for 84 rebounds in those two games.
Yeah. So obviously, to beat Florida, you got to be competitive on them boards. You got to be competitive on the glass. If no ifs, ands, or buts about it. You
And
got
guess
to
what?
show a willingness to be be about them boards.
And all the analysts are saying you pretty much got to be damn near perfect to beat Florida because guess what? Texas Tech had a chance. They missed free throws, left the door open. Look what happened.
You got
The
to hit the free
two-time
throws.
reigning defending champion UConn Huskies. They couldn't buy a 3-point bucket in the second half, and look what happened.
Dan Hurley, the refs didn't blow it. Your team did.
And then they couldn't get rebounds off of missed free throws by Florida, by the way, which led to second chance points by the Gators.
Yeah. I'm about to say, that's a double whammy. Couldn't hit free throws, couldn't get boards, especially on the offensive end. And that can be
I'm talking about on
problematic.
defense. They couldn't block out Florida from getting to the offensive glass on free throws. Florida missed 12 free throws against UConn, but was able to get the rebound off free throws.
So
it's like the biggest no-no to any coach who coaches basketball.
Yeah. So the thing is, you can get Florida into foul trouble, but you got to close the deal and hit them free throws. That's one end. The other end is you got to be willing to be as grimy about the Windex as the Gators are. You got to be. Otherwise, you're going to get blown out the game.
You go to Houston. Houston always known for defense, but they have a little offense now.
That was what troubled them the last time they were in the Final Four. They could lock people down. They just couldn't buy buckets down the stretch. And now, whatever type of game you want to play, it looks like they can play it. And I'm liking that about them. And to me, that's what makes them dangerous. And I love the fact that you have the opportunity to witness a team that's like, we love to play defense. We want to shut you down. We want to, if we could, we want to shut you out. And that's why I think the best game they played to date was that League 8 game. Yeah.
And then you have Duke, who can play whatever style you want to play. It don't matter to them.
They're so back to life. How you want it? How many you need it? How? I mean, it don't matter. However, do you need it? That's how Duke is. You want to score 100 points? Cool. They can score 100. If you
want to get grimy and dirty, we can get grimy and dirty.
And they can limit you to 65 points. A great offensive team and limit them to 65 points.
So it's just like, I don't know why y'all complaining for, because this Final Four is going to be electrifying.
Well, they're complaining because let's be honest. You're a basketball aficionado. I love basketball too, so it makes me an aficionado too. You want to see great action. I don't care if it's your team or not. You want to see great action. You want to see a game where two teams have to fight hard and compete against one another, and to show us, okay, we know we need to raise our level of play because the level is great, and we're going to demonstrate why we are great. And when you see that, it hypes you up as a basketball fan because you know you're going to see some greatness. And people can be all in their feelings about, well, my team didn't make it, or we don't have a 2 or a 3 or a 4 seed or a 5 seed represented here. How is it that the number 1 seeds have to find their way? Bump that. The 4 best teams are here. The 4 best teams are in San Antonio. The 4 best teams will play April 5th and 7th.
You know, the funny thing is, if there was a football war, nobody could be complaining.
No, because they complained about the top 4 seeds in football this past December and January being bounced. And that it was the 5, the 6, the 7, and the 8 seed remaining. You and I didn't give 2 craps about it because the 4 best teams advanced.
Ohio State was on a mission. What you want me to tell you?
And I was about to say, in Ohio State, who was ranked 8th, after that L they took at home against Michigan, they were like, okay, well, that's the last L we're taking this year because we're going to dominate everybody, and they did. And what else can you say except congratulations, Ryan Day? You got your boys ready. and you went all the way to the national championship and smashed everybody on the way en route to it. That's what we're going to be saying about one of these four teams come April the 7th. Congrats. You're the best. You ran rush out over everybody. You earned this chip. Now enjoy the fruits.